Hello, hi, and welcome again to the Terminal Podcast, where in the end, it's all about the numbers. This is a show about baseball when in season, but it's not always baseball season. I am your host, and we are broadcasting high above Civic Station in downtown Atlanta. And tonight, two THS grads talk about the most baseball thing imaginable, the recent Hall of Fame inductions. I've been told he graduated from Teaneck High School with great acclaim and merit, according to Isn't It Funny How Time Flies, the 65th volume of The Highway. All of that to introduce Kris Deblasio. Kris, how you
It, it,
doing?
it says in the yearbook I graduated with some merit.
It has you in the yearbook and you are pictured. So they don't usually picture people without merit. They don't picture
Well,
the school dunce.
I wasn't up for the plaque award like some people.
Well, neither was I. So,
Yes, you were.
well, that in some places, in some cases, but well, we
Didn't someone
it is
mistakenly thought you were up for the black award? Isn't there
I
like a story?
that was the joke. That was a joke for a little bit. I remember that being something funny, but if I won, maybe I would have gotten into. Well, no, I probably still went to the same place I went to, so it didn't make a difference.
All right, Whitey, you went to a good enough school, okay?
I went to a nice PWI. It's fine.
PWI. I've never heard it
Yes,
called that. That is
really.
brilliant.
Oh, oh yeah, no, that's
Oh, I've not heard that. That term is now part of my everyday vernacular.
well, the vernacular of this show is baseball, and 2 weeks, 2 weeks before pitchers and catchers. It seems like it was just yesterday. It wasn't.
I don't know if you saw the breaking news for baseball.
That the Mets signed Jake Diekman.
No, apparently the Orioles got freaking Corbin Burns. Oh,
Oh, wow. That's yeah, that's not good for your division. I know.
yeah, and the Orioles got sold to a couple of billionaires
I was
yesterday.
gonna say, and they'll be able to keep those kids that are there.
Jesus.
Well, if all what's I was gonna say who's a Alston. He's just the funny named one with the A.
Yeah, Adlai Rutschman.
There you go. If he stays a Baltimore Oriole and continues on his track, he might be a Hall of Famer, but he wasn't on the ballot. These guys were. These three guys have made it in. We'll start with just who's in and your thoughts on Adrian Beltre.
I mean, listen, he has the career numbers. I mean, he's again, it's like the term game manager in
Football.
quarterback
Yeah.
parlance. He's the compiler.
Hmm.
He, and his numbers are outstanding. Was he ever the best third baseman in baseball? Or among, I was trying to say among, not the best, sorry, among the best, maybe for a 2 or 3 year period, he was among the core few
Really?
guys in the early 2010s. Um, but again, I mean, his numbers, listen, they stand on their own, right? The guy has 3,000 hits. He has 400 and something home runs, right? I'm trying to look at his stats here. 477 home runs, 1,700 RBIs. And again, his last 2 years, he was a little light. But I mean, at 37, he hit 32 home runs, batted 300, and drove in 104 runs.
Yeah. I was gonna say I was surprised you questioned. I was gonna say it's not. It was the longevity of him being not necessarily the best third baseman in the league, but a definite top five third baseman for a good at least decade stretch.
Yeah.
Because you also add in the glove,
Well,
and that's
yeah,
the
absolutely. I mean, he
and
was a tremendous fielder.
that's sort of the thing I sadly feel like doesn't seem to take resonance with the 21st century baseball fan doesn't seem to account willingly take into account how important it is to have a good fielding third baseman. You know what I mean? To not have to
Right.
worry about that hard ground ball that suddenly is not a double down the line. It's they don't seem to expect that as much as I seem to. I was going to say, how important is the third baseman with a glove for you?
I mean, that's what you want at third base. You want some pop and a guy who can pick it, right? You want Michael Jack Schmidt, who had about 212 in his career, but He could pick it and he could blast it at the plate.
You said Beltre had 3,000 hits. 3,000 hits is the number you're usually in, right? There's very few, unless they've got some sort of something with 3,000 hits, who aren't in the Hall of Fame now.
3,000 hits is still a lot. Of, I think it's still only like 33 people in the history of baseball. 3,000 hits.
Yes. So that's the number. But is 400? Well, because the next person in is Todd Helton. Helton is a whole separate story. He's got over 400 home runs. He didn't reach 500. So is 450 is not now the new sort of home run number? Or are we still gonna wait for 500? Because you're looking up Helton. I know he's got all, and we can go the transition from one to the next is about the home runs.
Yeah, let's see his numbers. Sorry, I was looking up something else. I
That's
was
fine.
talking about Beltre. What are his numbers? Again, like he had a 4 or 5 year period where he was among the premier power hitters in the game.
Yeah.
Home runs. No, he's only got 369. So his career numbers maybe aren't as great. But again, he had a stretch there where he goes 25, 35, 42, 49, 30, 33, 32 home runs
It's not
and
the home
100
runs with Helton.
RBIs
It's not the
every
home runs with
year.
Helton. It's the fact that he's a three. What's his career's got to be 317.
Well, I was just going to say about Beltre, and not to go back, but the
Mm,
one number you could get on Beltre a little bit, not get on, but he only slugged 819 for a guy with 477 home runs, right?
yeah.
I mean, not slugged. I'm sorry, OPS, right?
Okay.
Todd
Yeah.
Helton's OPS is 953.
Okay. And
That's
the
150 points higher. Like,
which leads to the question about Helton, how much he's going to be the first one. He stayed in Colorado the entire time. He's going to be the first true Colorado Rocky from them creating that franchise to him being able to go in the Hall of Fame, a Rocky through and through the entire month. How much is it we needed to get a true Colorado Rocky into the Hall of Fame, despite the fact his numbers are going to be elevated because he played at a higher elevation for half his career, and his home and road splits are, they're not as drastic, but they're still home and road splits. How much of that, how much do you think? I mean, he's in, so it makes no difference. But what are your thoughts on the fact that he played at Coors Field?
I don't know, I'm not a physicist. I'm just a baseball fan. Again, I mean, Walker's in too, and he played the brunt of his career in Colorado.
Yeah, but he was an
I mean,
Expro.
he played his first 6 years in Montreal, but then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons in Colorado, and that's where
Yeah.
he
Oh,
made
he's
his
oh
mark.
he's a Rocky, but I remember Larry Walker, the Expo. That's
Right.
I'm old. I'm old.
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. You are. No, I mean, listen, there are advantages everywhere, right? I mean, how many left-handed Yankee hitters have gotten a hit on a short porch, and how many, you know, you look at numbers for like doubles and triples of guys that played in those cavernous ball yards back in the day. And again, we could go on, and I know we're going to get to it. We'll probably mention the S word at some point. But again, the people that didn't play against black guys, and the people that didn't play against middle relievers, and people that took greenies, and so there's advantages, disadvantages in every era, in every ballpark. You just compare them against their contemporaries.
Okay. I'm more surprised that no Beltray. Who's the? It was it Houghton wasn't the first timer in, was he? Mauer was the first
No,
time in.
I don't think any Mauer was, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't remember either. It might have been two out of the three were first time because it couldn't have been Todd Helton. Todd Helton couldn't have been a first time in.
No.
He's, okay. Beltray as a first time ballot kind of makes a little sense just because of the numbers, like you said, and the gold gloves and everything. But we just mentioned Maurer, who just snuck in at 76.1%. Billy Wagner ends up 5 votes short. He's out. Maurer's in. Maurer is is he a Hall of Famer to you?
I seem to be on an island here without a doubt. without a doubt.
Okay. Yeah, that's all you gotta say because yeah,
You look at
I'm
his
not.
first. You look at his first 10 years. He played
Yeah,
catcher.
yeah, yeah.
People catcher. Now, the one thing with his numbers is he was not a premier power guy for a catcher. Like he didn't, he didn't have a huge number of home runs. He didn't have a
He
huge
had
slugging percentage.
he had 3 batting titles.
No, 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 no. And his three batting titles were 347,
Yeah,
328, and 360. He didn't win a 290. What did Yaz win it that year? 302 or 298
yeah.
in 67?
Well, if
When
you're
he
back in
hit Bob
'67.
Gibson.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're back in '67, then you're dealing with a whole different era,
So,
which
but
is
again,
another
like
thing about
so,
baseball. Yeah.
his slug, right? His slug. But let's go through. Let me so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
What?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. His first 10 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. He's over 400 on base percentage. Aren't we in the Billy Bean era? Moneyball on base percent. That's 6 seasons of over 400 on
Yeah,
base
and
percentage.
it's and I'm certain those years he was batting over 300, and this is all coming from your catcher. And
From your Gold Glove catcher.
I was going to say that was the other part of it was once again he's your Gold Glove catcher, and that's at a time when Ivan Pud Rodriguez is still playing. So some of those awards were likely going in that. I mean, yeah, it's not a it wasn't a dry time for catchers at that point, but either way, he's still a Gold Glove catcher. He's a Gold Glove caliber in other years, so he's a good catcher. It's just a short you. I'm not shocked he's a Hall of Famer. I just am more than anything surprised that he got in on the first ballot. I didn't think he was necessarily a first ballot Hall of Famer, only because you get the back end of it where he's no longer a catcher, because of injuries, because of the wear and tear of being a catcher, he's now a DH and a first baseman, and he's not the same. I thought that would hamper him enough to not let him be a first ballot, but he's a Hall of Famer. If that's not clear.
Right. um, again, I think, and again, I know this is the thing you always try to find comparisons and circumstances. Listen, I know Roy Campanella got, paralyzed in a car accident. But I mean, Roy Campanella played 10 years in Major League Baseball, right? And you look at Joe Mauer's first 10 years, and it's very comparable, batting wise. I mean, Mauer, 323 batting average, 872 OPS. Campy, 276 batting average, 860 OPS.
Mm-hmm.
Both, high level defensive catchers. Campanella won 3 MVP awards. He played on some great teams in Brooklyn. But I can't believe how many people don't think Mauer belongs in ever. Like,
Oh, yeah, I don't. Once again, the the offensification, the video game aspect of sports means you don't think about defense. So you don't think about having to have a good defensive third baseman. You don't think about the wear and tear of being a catcher and
right.
having all that equipment and then having to go hit. It's like that doesn't come into account.
And catcher is the ultimate intangible position, too, when you're talking
Yeah.
about team. It was Kirkchin or Stark or one of them a couple years ago when Mauer might have still been playing, or maybe just Mauer was doing like his yearly Hall of Fame, like kind of current major league players who were probably in. And, the catchers, he said Mauer, Yachty, and Buster Posey are all Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Like they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Buster Posey has almost no numbers that would make him a Hall of Famer, but Buster Posey's a Hall of Famer.
Oh, well, Buster Posey, the numbers he has is it 3 World Series?
Yeah, 3-time World
It,
Series. Oh, he does have 5 Silver Sluggers. Okay, an
and I was going to
MVP.
say I thought he was an MVP in a couple of
No,
those
he
World
was an
Series.
MVP one time. Yeah, I remember he
Yeah,
was an MVP.
so that's why Buster's gets in because he was a top catcher for that section, and oh yeah, he's got these 3 rings that are
Right,
holding down his hand. So
right, and he
yeah,
only played 12 years, so he's going to go in to the Hall of Fame with only
yeah.
1,500 hits, 158 home runs, 700 RBIs. But
Once again,
Buster
if
Posey's a Hall of Famer.
he only played that short of a time, and he's got 3 rings, and he was one of the top catchers. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying though, but there's not there's not many catchers that are on that list, and they don't come along as much, because
Yeah.
it's not a position where there's a longevity and star quality to it. It's like Paul LaDuca played for over a decade in the major leagues. He's not going to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
It's just not going, so yeah. All right. So that's who's in. So Wagner, like I mentioned, 5 votes short. I he pitched for the Mets. He's pitched for a bunch of different teams. Is he? Am I viewing him wrongly because he's a closer, because he's a reliever? But or you like me, where it's like I don't know if Billy Wagner's really a Hall of Famer, but
Yeah, Billy Wagner, to compare him to a starter, of my team, who you overrate when it's your team a little bit. He's Andy Pettit. He was a really, really good pitcher. He was. He
yeah,
was really good. You want him on
yeah.
your team. You want him closing games, but he's not a Hall of Famer.
But
And
I
again,
guess
when
the
we
thing
when,
is,
when we have these debates, though, it's like he's not Hall of Famer. That doesn't mean he wasn't a really, really good baseball player for a really long
yes,
time.
that's a fair point, because he wouldn't be talking about him if he wasn't really, really good for a really long
Right. We're
time.
not talking
And
about
that
Cecilio Guante.
but he did have that great season that one time, but I don't know if it was a Hall of Fame season. The guy you were just
I
talking
don't think
about.
Cecilio Guante ever had a good season.
Sheffield had a lot of good seasons. He's off the ballot, which is easily leads into the steroids, right? Because that's the only reason why Sheffield's not in the halls, because he's
Yeah,
believed to have taken
absolutely,
steroids, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So we'll get back to that. Carlos Beltran, 57%, Beltran, sorry, 57%. He's on the way up. The thought is next year, when there isn't as many names, as Sheffield now off the ballot, and there isn't anybody new coming in that's gonna take votes away, whatever, that he should be in next year. So my question to you is, he goes in, whose hat does he wear?
That's a great
Because
question.
it's
Just to mention Carlos Beltran, like, is Carlos Beltran any less of a player than Adrian Beltre?
uh Carlos has got an MVP, right? Or no?
No, but was it 9-time All Star? He's got 2,700 hits.
Yeah.
What does he have home?
He,
He's at 435 home runs, 1,500 RBIs, close to
he
about.
and
You
he
know what I
was
mean? Like
he was a Gold Glover. He was a Gold Glove center fielder, though. That's
Gold
the other
Glove
thing
center
about it.
fielder.
Yeah.
Listen, a guy you wanted up. You wanted
Yeah.
Carlos up in big spots. You did. You
Yeah.
know.
You're talking to the wrong person. There's very few people that even foul off, yet alone hit the curveball that Wainwright threw that night
Yeah.
in a
No,
3-2 spot in the seventh. It's like, come on. That did you have you anybody watched that? If you watch the highlight, that pitch is disturbing because it starts and then drops. It's like, yeah, no, no.
Can I
Anyway,
say he should go in as a Yankee for one reason that you probably don't even know about?
because you guys were the first to bring him up in like into your office and make him like a manager or something, or what?
Well, but when he was with the Yankees, and the Yankees have this one big banquet every year, he suggested, this while he was a player, this is what I love about Carlos Beltran, not just who did it for the Yankees, but he suggested that the players who have either in the Hall of Fame or have their number retired by the Yankees have a special blazer that they wear at this big Yankee gala every year to recognize them as like the outstanding people of the
Amongst these
Yankees.
room. Yeah,
Yeah, which I always thought was really cool. I mean, listen, 7 years with the Royals, 7 years with the Mets. Yeah, he can put a Mets cap on. That's fine. I mean, they went out and signed him to be their big player, and he played well
there's
and
well,
helped them to some really good seasons.
there's very few people who
Four
have.
All-Star teams in his 7 years.
Well, we've blazed on about this, and I've got my 5-minute warning. So, I
So you don't want him in as a Met?
no, I don't. It was more of a general question, because I don't personally, I don't care which way he goes in. If he goes in,
Because
I think he
yeah, I mean,
deserves to go in. But there are too many people. Like I said, there are too many people who remember him for that, for watching that curve, as opposed to the many times he was patrolling center field and making amazing catches, or I don't know, hitting 270 and all the home runs. He was amazing absolutely amazing in a Met uniform. But I'm not going to argue if someone says he was a better Royal. I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
going to. That's not a hill to stand on. It doesn't make any sense.
You should still be more
Um,
mad at Kenny Rogers. Sorry. I didn't mean that.
I'm still more mad at Glavin. It makes no difference. Um, I teased all that to mention David Wright still is on the Hall of Fame ballot. I He's never likely to make it, nor should he,
But he's your guy.
but he's good enough to be on the ballot, and he's one of the greatest Mets players. In fact, he's the best homegrown Met talent ever, in my opinion. You could read more about that opinion in Jersey Sporting News. The best of all New Jersey sports from high school all to the pros wearing orange and blue at Citi Field. That's jerseysportingnews.com. And that's a transition because I
Shameless
only got a
plug.
couple more minutes. But easy question. Super Bowl in a couple of days. I can't wait for it to get here so it can be over. Who do you got and why? Kansas City and San Francisco.
I hate to say this because I used to do it all the time with another guy. And that other guy got beaten twice by my guys. But Kansas City still has Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, there you
Yeah.
go. Hello.
Let's see if I can squeeze in this close on a completely fictional trivia question. Basically, Comedy Central list of the 100 greatest stand-up comedians of all time, posted on IMDb about 3 years ago. It starts with Richard Pryor, George Carlin, and Lenny Bruce. That's a 1, 2, 3. So there's some legitimacy. So here's a legit question about this, and I'm going to close with this. How many females do you think are in the top 20 on this list?
2.
You want to try and name them?
Joan and Phyllis.
I can tell you you're wrong, but my hesitation should let you know that you are. Um,
Lucille Ball.
uh, I, I could, you know what? I'm gonna close with you just guessing completely. It's a great way to do it. You get the number right. Well, the number was 2, so you got the number right. But we could go on, but can you describe an argument as concluding at it finishes, but no conclusions were made? Like no conclusions were made here. Here's hoping you conclude to return to the terminal and get the answer to the question as to the 2 female comedians in the top 20 on this list. I'd like to thank my guest, THS superstar Kris Deblasio, and wish him a safe ride home. Have a good evening.